Is MAGA a cult? Eh, let me start by saying this. Okay, first off, the question was put to us: if MAGA is a cult, as the Democrats say it is, are they actually foolish enough to dismiss over half the population of the United States as a cult simply because they don't have the same beliefs? I'm going to go pretty fast here, but try to keep up. Dismissing half the country because they quote unquote have the same beliefs is not what I think people are trying to do by saying MAGA is a cult.
Because they have different beliefs.
Different beliefs. That's okay. That's what I meant. MAGA is a facet of the Republican Party that came about because of Donald Trump and his initial presidential bid. The cult part are people that are loyal to Donald Trump to a fault. At this point, anyone who's still loyal to Donald Trump is, I think, by definition, to a fault. And I will say this, because again, I want to be fair. I've actually done some research on this, and I wanted to figure out what things made a cult. How does a cult come about? And the MAGA movement, if I remember correctly, it checks 3 of the 4 boxes of a cult. But it is not because of that final box. And I'd have to go back and pull it up again. Again, I'm going through this pretty quickly because I'm having to make this detour because I don't get to go through all of our notes here. But that 4th box, it needs that 4th box in order to qualify as a cult by the definition that's widely accepted. But that doesn't mean that we ignore the 3 boxes that it checks. It checks them very well, right? And so, depending on what it is that you're trying to do, how you're trying to paint this picture, they do check a majority of the boxes of a cult. Not all of them. And so, as journalists with some integrity, I think we have a lot of integrity, but some people will disagree, of course. No one would say we have none. So I'll say some integrity. I will call this fair. No. But I do absolutely recognize why people call MAGA a cult for reasons that I'm sure you well know. But in terms of painting half of the population as a cult, that is something that we're seeing this administration do with their political opposition, people that espouse a more liberal philosophy, people that espouse a more progressive philosophy, people that vote Democrat, etc. But let's just take a look at just the breakdown of the question we're asking in terms of like how can Democrats dismiss half the population? Looking at just adults, there are 258 million adults in the U.S. 77 million voted for Trump, which is 30%. Of those, some number voted for him, not because they're in a cult, but because they didn't like Harris. Some people, maybe they did prefer Trump. Some people just historically voted Republican, and so that was the Republican nominee. It's the flag waving, hat wearing, will fight you in the street sort of person that is very cultish, and it's the person that has no basis for their vote but espouses not Republican philosophies but the man himself, that you start to see the cultish sort of following that has developed in this country. I have to make sure you weigh in here, Q, before we move on. So take your time. We kind of killed this clock already. So
yeah, but you hit the points that I thought were important. It's intentionally misleading to say you're dismissing half the country. Mm-hmm. There's no statistical data that shows half the country thinks that "Make America Great Again" is a slogan that they prefer to use. So. Mm-hmm. You know, from its inception, the question, and I think intentionally does this, positions you as the person who's against half the country, right? As an effort to make you question your own position. Man, am I really going to dismiss half the people in the country because they disagree with me? Mm-hmm. And again, I don't, you said you were going to be fair. I don't require the 4th box.
Yeah.
People that I know and care about, people who have held my children, people who have known me for years, for a man they don't know, decided our friendship was not worth them not supporting someone who would make life dangerous for those same children.
Your
There
children.
is no circumstance, there is no candidate, there is no policy that would make me support a man or woman whose intentions were to make life less safe for my friend's children. I don't think of anything else that will qualify you more as a cult member than to go against people that you know and care about, or a complete stranger who I've learned just so happens to dislike, fear, or hate the same things you do.